Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Canal Days, What Life Was Like in the Industrial Connecticut River Valley of Massachusetts. I'm your host, Carrie, and joining us today is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He personally offers and leads public and private tours, as well as presentations of historical sites within communities throughout the state of Massachusetts. Currently, the communities he has chosen to focus on this year are Holyoke, Chicopee, South Hadley, and East Hampton, and also Granby and Amherst as well. His tours spotlight the local canals, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks, streets, and selected historical houses within each community. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the town of West Springfield. So, what are some of the historical highlights of West Springfield?
West Springfield is obviously an offshoot from Springfield itself, and it was settled very early on, because Springfield was very old itself. West Springfield settled in 1655, and it didn't become a town incorporated as such until 1774, and then for the past 20 years it's been called a city. All right, and West Springfield also has two offshoots from itself, just like West Springfield offshoot from Springfield itself. From West Springfield, there came about towards the north, Holyoke, which was formerly called Ireland Parish, or district, or precinct. And in 1850, it would shoot off on its own. And that's because they were building a new canal there, and when they opened it up and got it ready, people clamored for, we should be our own town, and Holyoke broke off. Agawam broke off towards the south in 1855. All right, now, within the borders of West Springfield, there's a lot of amazing things, old churches and cemeteries, and we're going to talk about cemeteries and a canal and churches today. So it's very like a lot of industrial locations around the Connecticut River Valley. We're going to talk about that Agawam Canal. It's called that, but it's located in West Springfield. And we're going to talk about its old churches. Many are extremely old, even though the first burials would have been brought to Springfield. They ended up developing their own cemeteries and their own ancient churches. So it should be a good discussion today.
And West Springfield has many cemeteries. Can you tell us about some of them?
Yes, in terms of Protestant cemeteries, it has lots of them spread all over the place. The cemeteries within West Springfield, for the very old ones, you gotta find the one that's called the Park Street Cemetery. All right, that one was in a form of metal. It's called the Old Metal Cemetery at one time, but that's the older one. And that's where you find a lot of the pioneers of West Springfield, including the Ely family and the Riley family, so forth. All right, other ones around town that are pretty darn old are the Mead House Hill Cemetery, also called the White Church Cemetery, and that's from 1808. You got the Pocketuck Cemetery from about the 1820s. You got several of them downtown and some of them in the outskirts. The one that's right downtown is called the Park Street one, and one out in the outskirts is called the Pocketuck Cemetery. Right? Then you have one towards the north that served a little village toward the north near the border of Holyoke. That's called the Ashleyville Cemetery. And a lot of the Ashley family, who are also pioneers of West Springfield, are there. Now, in terms of the Jewish cemeteries, there's 4 of them in a row right outside the St. Thomas Cemetery. And that is a location where one of them started, and then they started selling off land the other ones had they came along. And the B'nai Jacob, Bethel, and Beth Israel, and Quotamus Cemetery are all right in line. They serve the same outdoor chapel. And the St. Thomas Cemetery is right next to that one. St. Thomas Cemetery might have sold the original land to the first Jewish cemetery. And the St. Thomas Cemetery is quite old. It, of course, serves the St. Thomas the Apostle Church, which is still nearby. And it's a very, very large Catholic cemetery. There's only, I think, 2 priests there, and I think the founder is there, or he might have a second pastor, but there's one old priest burial there. Alright, so a lot of cemeteries around.
And real quick before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to sign up for any various tours or find out more information, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there you can find videos and podcasts of the stops on each of his tours, as well as photos and text of the historical sites throughout as well. And for private tours and other inquiries, you can email him directly at bobcat4214 @yahoo.com. And his tours make for fun, educational, outdoor activities for families and group parties. So getting back to our interview. So West Springfield only has one canal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Alright, it's one there, yes, remember it's called the Agawam Canal, even though it's now in West Springfield. Agawam was the name of the Indian or Native American tribe that was there. The canal was completed in 1839, so it's not very old, it's not very new. It's in between the dates of the Lowell Canal and the Holyoke Canal, which came later. And it was always a one business canal, so no matter who was there, it was always serving the mill owner, one mill owner only. And it's a canal that goes towards the back, so it fed through tunnels under the mills, also called races. So this Agawam Canal can develop later into more specifics, and you can compare and contrast it to the other canals around the area.
And tell us about some of the churches around West Springfield and their significance.
Okay, there's lots of churches, of course, around. There's no Jewish synagogues, even though there are 4 Jewish cemeteries in West Springfield. So, the First Congregational Church of West Springfield, it's there as a brick and mortar neo-Gothic church. Of course, it is not the original. The original would have to be from the 1770s, when it became a town on its own. Now, West Springfield has a very unique church that's not downtown. It's on the outskirts. It's called the White Church, or it's called the West Springfield First Parish Church. All right, and that one has a cemetery right along its side. Now, it was built probably in the 1880s. The parsonages are along its side, and so you're getting a look at an old-time look of what it maybe looked like at one time. But the real church that it replaced was across the street, and probably a lot smaller than the one is nowadays. Okay, there's other churches around, including a Baptist church, right, and including a Catholic church. The St. Thomas the Apostle Church had a very large congregation, as it always is, and its history is very interesting too. It started off as a mission church, and then it grew and grew on its own. It grew from a mission church of a church in Chicopee called the Holy Name Church, and the first pastor was 1877, a person named William Phelan. All right, and I've got a list of all the pastors that served there to help you through its history. It developed a school, for instance, and thus a convent, and of course it had a rectory. So it has a big campus. So I hope you get out to West Springfield and see a lot of its history.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours and historical topics of your expertise. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can check out a large selection of our other podcasts on his website, as well as on SoundCloud.com. And be sure to stay up to date with new podcasts and videos posted daily. Thank you for tuning in.